Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Tonight we're talking about the series finale, What You Leave Behind. But before we continue, you can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast.
And as I say every single week, you should find us and follow us because we are great. We are awesome. We are a good time. And, well, this is it, at least as far as the show is concerned. This is it. We will be doing maybe some comparison things and going back and looking at some old stuff and things like that, but there will be no more new episodes for us to cover of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That is. Now, whether or not we decide to branch out into other franchises, that's still up in the air. But for a while, don't worry, we've still got some things planned for you to enjoy that are still going to be Deep Space Nine related. Not to mention, we're still covering a lot of stuff from the Expanse TV and book series. So you have a lot of that to look forward to as well. So basically, just saying, stay tuned. You'll like what we do. You'll like what we do next. Okay. Um, now, as David said tonight, we are talking about the final episode, season 7, episode 26, or really episodes 25 and 26, because it was extra long, of this of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. What you leave behind. Now, I don't know how David felt. We're going to get into that, of course. But as I've said before, I hadn't really watched a lot of season 7 in my various rewatches because I don't like the endings. But of course, I struggled through this one, and it was just as wonderful and poignant and bitter in places as I remember. So we're going to get into all that. But before we do, I like to do a little bit of a weekly recap there. So, David, how has your week been?
Week's been good. Pretty similar to the last couple times I've reported in, just studying for that course, that certification that I've been studying for. Just working. However, I have to say the most unique thing about this week. Not only are we finishing up Deep Space Nine, but my store was closed for the final time on Monday. Went in on Monday and they said, "Hey, we're gonna uh, close it today. Like today, when you're done, it'll be the last time. We're not gonna have you go back. We're gonna send our guys in to clear the store out on your days off." And when it came time for me to go back into work, they sent me somewhere else for the first time in over 3 years. So the crossover between me doing this show with you and having my own store for the last 3 years, we've done the show for four, has been a lot of overlap there, and it's kind of serendipitous that those two things kind of come to an end around the same time. But yeah,
A
that was
series of endings.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's how it goes, right?
exactly. Um, I did start reading the Expansive Philosophy book. We both have a copy now. You had talked about reading some of it.
Yep, got mine
I've
right
been
here.
feeling, yeah, I
This is
might,
what
I
it
might,
looks like. This is the one that you want if you want to follow along with us at all. Here, I'll try to hold it up for you so you can see. There's the author's name, so you can definitely search that out on Amazon. That's where I got mine, and there you go.
yep, yeah.
So,
And I'm reading it chapter by chapter. Sounds like you maybe have kind of been around a bit. You've kind of jumped to chapters you
well,
wanted to read.
yeah. So what I was doing was I was going through and looking basically at the names of philosophers that I knew, and then trying to
Okay.
read the chapter based upon what I knew of that individual's philosophy basically, and then seeing how they reconciled that with the show. So and then it's another thing to remember: this book is about the show version of The Expanse, not the books, not the book series. And there
Yeah.
is a difference. So that's what I've been doing. And then I've decided, though, I think I'm just going to go back and just kind of read the rest of the way through. And because I thought about it, and I've really only skipped like maybe 3 chapters. So it wouldn't be that big of a deal to go
Sure.
back and just read them. And now I'm chronological.
Yeah.
Um, but what have you thought of this so far?
Yeah. By the way, guys, we'll probably do an episode on that book, so that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, so we're not gonna be super long on this. We're just going to ask real quick first
Yeah.
impressions of this one.
Uh, so the first section, I haven't been, I think, fine. The first couple chapters, like the first one, is about infinity and the expanse. Like the fact
Hmm.
that they're contemplating the infinite. the sublime of all of the wonders of the universe. And it was fine. It's just like I just kind of was like, okay, interesting, but maybe it was just too philosophical, like too
Yeah. Yeah, little too heady. It gets out there for real on that one.
like it was like the expanse was an excuse to talk about the subject, but that also meant that the story of the expanse wasn't really at all brought up much at all. So it felt more like a jumping point to a different subject than to actually
Okay.
expanse. Um, but chapter four, you and I before we got on here, we were both hating on that chapter. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't think of another word for it. Hating on it. That's exactly it. I
Yeah,
mean, um the mischaracterization of any character is is a problem, but
yeah,
when it's a well-known and also favorite character,
yeah,
it's a catastrophe. And
yeah,
yeah, I have not finished all of that chapter yet, mainly because I've been having such a difficulty with the way that it's being written. I just don't agree. It's almost, line for line, not agreeing with what the person is saying.
yeah.
That's never really happened to me before. Normally, I can find something that they're
Right,
saying that I can be like, well, I can kind of see your point here. So far, nothing, nothing at all. So,
right,
and again, like I said, I haven't finished it yet. So when I get through it, we'll see if that has changed. But
right.
based upon how they're going, I don't think it's going to, at
Yeah,
least for chapter 4
right,
in this book. So,
right.
but yeah, if you're interested at all, if you read the book series, if you watch the TV show, I would strongly suggest picking this up. It's a great like companion thing to have and
Mhm.
thinking about the show. And if you do any kind of rewatch, kind of having this in the back of your mind or on your coffee table so you can like make little references and like that would be a great way to enhance the show for you. And I don't really recommend stuff like that with books and TV shows often, but this one so far has been illuminating,
Yeah,
I'll say.
yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that's been my week. Pretty normal. How about you? What's up with you?
Well, I have been overall. I guess I've developed this interest in history, and I've been trying to get different perspectives on history and getting things, getting different materials to make references and to kind of just know what just certain things that happened. And I talked to some friends who made some recommendations. Some I took, some I didn't. And I found in particular, I'm going to show them these two books that were about Black history. And this first one here, has been making the waves. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, any of those, this book has come up a lot. It's the Black History book, and this one kind of goes over everything from, it's not just United States Black history, but it's like all of it, everything that can be traced coming out of Africa to present day. So I found this one to be very interesting because it goes into different cultures, things that Black people have done in, again, like different cultures, and how they can trace it through Africa and other countries and everything else. So it's got like stories, parables, things like that from different cultures that you can reference as well. So I like this one so far because one, it's easy to read. So like for my kid, getting her getting her
Mhm.
access to the information has been really easy. Also, I like the
Right.
fact that it's more of a global representation. It's not specific to any particular um, uh,
Region, area,
continent or anything
country.
like that. Right? It's very global. So I like that. So if you have any interest at all, again, I would check that out. And again, it's been all over the place. So um, do that one. And then this one was kind of a, I got a reference for another book that I didn't agree with, and I found this one while looking for the other book. And this one it's Black AF history. This one is all about the African American experience in the United States, and it's got a lot of photos. There's a lot of personal firsthand accounts. There's just all kinds of stuff in here spanning Black history in the United States from the beginnings of slavery on. So if you, again, want to know a more, I guess I would
Focus.
categorize this as, yeah, focus is a word. unfiltered was I think what I was going for.
Mm.
Um, it's got all kinds of stuff. Like there's actual interviews from former slaves who, up until obviously before they died, they had recorded their stories. Those are included. There are little anecdotes here and there from the author of things that he discovered along the way when he was putting the book together. There's a it's detailed. There are some aspects of it that are graphic, but there's humor in there too while he's given this account. So again, I feel like this is a bit more accessible than some of the other things that I saw out there. Um, I would not recommend this one for children. I will say that. Definitely an adult book, but at the same time, if you are a person who generally is interested in trying to make sure you have a full, complete picture of the history of your country, I think this would be a good book for
Gotcha.
anybody to read. Okay. So, and I'm making my way through that. And then last but not least, this one is ancient Egyptian myths and legends.
Ooh,
My daughter recently in school had started some stuff about the Egyptian gods and goddesses, and I thought it would be interesting to have a book for her that doesn't just like give you a boring list of the gods, but I mean, it certainly gives you a list, but it also gives you like three or four of the top myths, fables, whatever you want to call it, about each of them and how
nice.
they all interrelate to each other. And then there's also sections in here about how the Egyptian people viewed these particular gods and goddesses and how they were invoked and used in everyday life, everything else. So no pictures in it, but I like it because I love this coloring here, this blue with the gold, and
Yeah.
then the side has the letters on there, and
Right.
then also the inside has hieroglyphs everywhere as well.
Nice.
So I was like, I think it's a very pretty book the way that they put this together, and then I mean, I guess it has some little pictographs and stuff in there occasionally, but yeah. So we've been enjoying these things for now.
Nice.
But we're not here to talk about all that. We
No.
are here for what you leave behind. And I guess it's fitting that we're starting this right at the top of the hour. We've gotten all the other stuff out of the way so we can now
Mhm.
totally focus. Um, so to dive right in, I will just go ahead and give our summation. So sit back, so maybe a little bit longer because obviously the episode was longer. Um, so in this one, as it is the final, what we see here is the continuation of the arc that's going to end our story here. So as we know, the last few episodes we have been marching um off to war. Yeah. We've been marching off to war with the Dominion, and everything is now focused on Cardassia, the Cardassian system, Cardassia Prime, and so forth. In the last episode, we saw that the Dominion forces have begun to pull back a little bit, and the Federation forces had decided that we're not going to just let you pull back to just the Cardassian space. We need to press on and we need to end the war. And so what we're seeing here at the beginning of this episode is them
Right.
continuing that. We can't let them just hold up back there because we know that they have an impressive ability to rebuild, and we need to make sure that this is a decisive victory for the Alpha Quadrant.
Correct.
Meanwhile, we on Cardassia, we know that Damar, Kira, and Garrick are in hiding. The Dominion has been pumping out misinformation saying that Damar is dead, that his rebel resistance is also dead, and basically trying to discredit Damar as much as possible. But we see that Damar is still very much alive, and now they are planning yet another strike against the Dominion and their forces so that they can continue this rebellion.
Right.
Um, the founder is still dying. Odo is cured. We also see that in this episode, Esri and Bashir are fully together. In fact, that's how the episode starts. As a matter
Yep.
of fact, is them fully together.
Hmm.
So just kind of popcorning around here a little bit before we get into it. So, with all this said, with all these things in place, not Ducat, Cisco, Martok, and the admiral, I forget his name,
Ross.
Admiral Ross. Yes, they march to war. their combined groups, the Romulans, the Klingons, Federation, and so forth, are all out beating up on the Dominion and Breen forces, and the power ends up going out at like just the beginnings of the major battle. And this is because Damar and his group had sabotaged all the power stations on the planet, leaving them blind to what
Right.
was going on, which also works in Cisco's favor because it doesn't allow for the Dominion to coordinate with their troops. So even though the battle may not be going as well as they would hope, it could be a lot worse if they had the direct um, consult of the Dominion, but they don't have that. When they do finally restore power, they see that Cisco and company has broken through the lines, and that the Cardassians have switched sides. And
Mm-hmm.
they have switched sides because the Cardassian people on the Cardassian homeworld have been staging all these resistance attacks against the Dominion, and the Dominion, in retaliation, has decided to bomb cities. They
Right.
destroyed an entire city in retaliation, and the
Right.
Cardassian people not too happy about that.
Right.
Um, at one point, Ducat, not Ducat, man, I don't know why he's on my brain. We'll get to him, but at one point,
Damar.
Damar and Kira and Garrick are captured. The founder orders them to be executed immediately, but because it's not personally overseen by Wayoon, is why I feel like it failed. The Cardassians turned on the Jem'Hadar soldiers,
Yeah.
killing them, freeing Damar, and then Damar and Kira and so forth marched on to the central control complex to get the female shapeshifter to have her surrender.
Right.
This, of course, doesn't work. They do capture her, but she's like, "Yeah, we're not going to surrender." And by the time you are able to, fully defeat us, it will have cost you so many lives and so many ships that I mean, there won't be a point, right? She
Yeah.
said something along those lines. So. Again, Cisco and company, they make it through, but they're like, we really need this to end. Odo volunteers to beam down so that he can talk with her. Cisco agrees because he's like, it could, save a bunch of lives. Odo talks to the founder. She's at first not going to agree, but then she links with Odo, who cures her of her disease. And this in turn does get her to agree. And
Right.
she orders the immediate surrender of all Dominion forces. She
Right.
also agrees to stand trial for what she's done. And it seems like the trade off is that Odo will take her place in the Great Link and also go and cure the rest of the changelings.
Right.
So obviously, we see the scene where Ross, Martok, and Ben are on Cardassia Prime. Dead Cardassians everywhere, massive amounts of destruction everywhere. And Martok couldn't be happier. The man's like ready to burst into song at one point, and he's
Yeah.
drinking and enjoying it. Ross and Cisco, on the other hand, not so much. They end up pouring out the blood wine that Martok had brought with them to drink. And Martok makes the classic, oh, pesky
Yep.
humans, little remark before everybody leaves. And then we see everybody back on the station. Now, it's important to note here, real quick, I
Right.
almost forgot. On their way to the battle, Cisco does have a vision from the prophets, and the prophets basically tell him that your path is not ahead of you, but it's behind you. They don't really say what
Right.
that means. Very cryptic as always, but there you go.
Right.
So now they're back on the station, and we find out that the Dominion is getting ready to sign the necessary paperwork to surrender. Miles has accepted a teaching position at Starfleet Academy, so he's going back to Earth, and he's going to gift their giant model of the Alamo to Bashir. Worf is named ambassador to the Klingon Empire for on the behalf of
The Federation.
uh, the Federation, or vice versa. He's the ambassador to the Federation on behalf of the Klingon
No,
Empire.
it's Federation to the Klingons. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Either way, he's an ambassador. Martok couldn't be happier, and that's pretty much it for them. They go to Vix for their after party or whatever. Vic
Yep.
sings a very lovely tribute song to everyone. And then as everybody is dancing and everything else, Cisco kind of has another out of body experience basically, and realizes he needs to leave. He knows what the prophets need him to do. This now brings us to our other story of Kai Wynn and Dukat, who,
Yes.
as you know from the last episode, Dukat had been cast out from Adami's presence after
Right.
he was blinded for trying to look at the Kostamojan.
Right.
Now his sight has been restored to him, and Adami takes him into the fire caves, which we finally get to see after all this time,
After all this time. Yeah.
7 seasons. And I have to say, like I know that it's supposedly CGI, but in universe, those are probably the most beautiful caves I've ever seen. Like they've got a great lead up. There's a nice little walk up. There's
Yeah.
carvings on the outside of the mountain
Yeah.
paths and stuff like that. And I'm just like, who did all this? All for a place that is basically your hell. Like
Right.
someone they took the time to stylize Bajoran hell. And so, they get into the caves. Ducat makes a reference of how he was expecting to see fire in
Fire.
the caves, and Adami sets up a blaze. She says the magic words, the fire begins, and then we see the various little fiery spirits dancing around in there.
Right.
She says some more magic words. She makes Ducat drink the wine, which turns out was poisoned, which kills him. Then she offers up his life basically as a sacrifice to the um, power race in the hope that they will embody her and empower her,
Right.
which they reject her, which is fantastic. By the way, we'll
Yes.
get to that later. I love that moment so much.
Yeah.
Um, they reject her. They embody Ducat, restoring both his life and his true appearance as a Cardassian. They burn away all that fake Bajoran nonsense that he had adorned himself with. He comes back to life. He is saying his little piece about how he's going to light the entire, quadrant ablaze, the galaxy ablaze, and so forth when Cisco shows up. And Cisco tries to stop him, but Ducat is too powerful. He makes Cisco kneel. He's again monologuing about what's getting ready to happen and the differences between the two of them, and so forth and so on. Kai Wynn tries to intervene and destroy the book, The Coast Emotion, which apparently we now recognize as the key to Ducat's powers and ability. Um, but she's killed. She is
Yeah.
burned up by Ducat. And while he is dealing with her, and sending her off to wherever, this allows Cisco the ability to catch him by surprise, and they fall off the cliff face together, where we watch as the Kostamojan and Ducat apparently burn up, and the next thing we see is Cisco in the white void space that we've come to associate with the prophets in the Celestial Temple.
Right.
They tell him that it's, his trial is over. He can now rest. He says, I plan to, so they get back to Deep Space Nine. And she's like, yeah, no, we mean rest now, like right now. This is it. You're here. He gets a chance to communicate with Cassidy. He tells her, kind of, sort of, what's going on. He says, I could be gone a year, maybe not. It's not linear, so time doesn't really seem to matter for him. But there it is. And so now we watch at the end. Cassidy informs Jake kind of what's going on. We see that everybody else is moving on, moving up to their new roles, new positions, things like that. Kira has clearly been made placed in command of Deep Space Nine. Nog gets a promotion, and we see Jake is still on the station. Um, I guess gonna live there. We don't really know what's up with Jake at that point. Yeah, we don't really get a resolution for Jake. Um, but yeah, that's it. That's essentially the episode. We're obviously going to talk a lot about various moments here, but that is essentially uh, the summation. Now, if you want to watch all of it, you absolutely can. Go to Paramount Plus; it's all there. Go watch it. We'd love to discuss it with you, or you can just tell us what you thought later on when you comment on our video.
Right.
But David, first time viewer, what did you think of this finale?
Yeah. I think I agree pretty much with a lot of what people say, according to Wikipedia's like critiques, is that people feel like the end with the Dominion makes sense, but that Cisco's final confrontation with Gold Dukat and the Paw Wraiths leaves something lacking.
It
Um,
sucks. I'm
yeah,
just gonna say it sucks.
yeah,
It
it's
sucks because, and I don't know if this is something that was pointed out in what you had read other people saying, but to me it sucks because one thing that we have all agreed from day one of the Cisco character is that he is a dedicated, loving, devoted father. He would
mhm,
never leave his children. And
mm.
the fact that he leaves Jake and he leaves pregnant Cassidy, child he's never seen,
He just found out about it.
just found out. And you mean to tell me they're not going to let him go back
Yeah,
to be a parent to the
or
child?
that he
Absolutely
will,
not.
but he doesn't know when.
Right. Doesn't know when. It could be a year. It could be yesterday. He says, what does that mean? What
Yeah,
is that? No, no. I need to
right,
know that you came back, that you
right.
saw and raised your child.
Right. And let me put it this way. If Sarah, because she's always the impersonation of the prophets now, his mother apparently, if she had
Yes.
said, if you marry that woman, you're going to leave her a single mom, would he have married her? Would he, and not like you're going to die and leave her a single mom, but we're going to take your body and force you to not be with her and your own kid because we're going to take you on, you and Will, or what the Will Wheaton, you
Oh,
and um
yeah. Wesley.
Wesley, you and Wesley Crusher are gonna go tour the like
And that's actually a great point. That's twice
cosmos
now.
together.
Yeah, that's twice now we've seen characters become god beings, and they subsequently never have another interaction with their families ever again.
Exactly.
Wesley is never seen by he's never seen by anybody from the crew of Next Gen again.
Ever again.
Not his
Yeah.
mother, Picard, Data, no one. They never see him again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea that Cisco would go out the same way is a mistake. I mean,
And we know that Cisco isn't dead
yes.
because they said they did an exhaustive search of the planet and the caves. They
Yeah.
could find no
No.
remains, no evidence. So yes, we know that he fell off the cliffside or whatever, but
Right.
he never hit bottom. He didn't die.
Right.
He didn't die. He was transported wherever.
To the Celestial Temple, apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was taken straight there. Yeah. I I can see why it had to go this way for budgetary reasons, for storytelling reasons. Like they took all the time they needed to wrap the Dominion war plot, and that left, there was an hour and 30 minutes on this episode, this two-part episode. And it was basically an hour devoted to the Dominion plot, and we had roughly 30 minutes to wrap up the Pa Wraith plot and have the montage of the characters going about their daily lives with the new situation, etc. To have the song sung over them. So the unfortunately the Gold Dukat Pa Wraith plot just got the short end of
Which
the stick.
Which it really should have been the other way around. It really should have been the other way around. I think, and I don't know, there's nothing that we have that really
Yeah.
says this, but I think that the reason this was done was they did not want to go fully down the supernatural religious arc. They didn't want to do that,
Mm,
and I think that that's just
right.
because in the history of Star Trek it had never been done, and so
Right.
to wrap that up in a way that makes it to where you're still just dealing with aliens or whatever is why they had to shrink it, because if you give too much time to it you've got to explain all the back history, all the lore, how
Right.
Cisco can ultimately defeat this embodiment of ultimate evil in Dukat, the super-powered Dukat, by the way, too.
Right.
Um, but I still feel like if they had done it right, I mean, I'm saying there is a way that it could have been done, because as we even see in the confrontation of Dukat and Cisco, while Dukat is powered up because he's got a power race in him.
Hmm.
We don't see any of that for
Cisco.
Cisco, and
Yeah.
in fact, they almost make it a point to be like, it's because you're human that you're able to surmount these things, not because you have anything other or special about you.
Right.
So returning him, restoring him to his human life to live out the rest of his days would have still made sense and not
Yes.
leave us with this vagueness for a center character, by the way.
Right.
It
Yeah.
would be different if it was, Nog or somebody,
Right.
but he's Captain Cisco.
Right.
Every show that comes after this, there's going to be like there's always going to be that wonder what's going on with whatever it is with Cisco, and because you do it this way, like you can almost never bring him back
Right.
because the actor ages, time
Yeah.
changes, things
Right.
happen, and you can't say that we're going to send our captain to a non-linear out of time area and
And make it
what.
believable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the problem with all of that is that at no point has Cisco being the emissary meant that he was time jumping. Suddenly,
Right.
his new existence, he's a time jumper on behalf of the prophets. Like to where, to whom, for what purpose? I mean, the prophets already said in episode 1 that the reason they like enjoyed talking to him is because he could explain linear existence to them. Like I can see the tie back they're making, but I'm not sure what it is that he's supposed to be doing now as the emissary who travels through time. Like, if they had this whole season been having little blips where, like, there's an older Cisco, I'm just coming in to check it. Oh, I'm sorry, I came back too soon or something. Like, maybe it could have done
Like
something
maybe,
with that,
yeah.
but
Well, I mean, in a way, you could say they did that because he was living another life as Benny Russell,
okay.
and Benny Russell who existed in the 40s. And so again,
Okay,
since it's not
maybe.
necessarily that he doesn't necessarily have to be along Cisco's timeline. He just has to be along the human
Hmm.
timeline. And so because Cisco
Okay.
as a human understands linear time, him jumping forward or back or whatever, he's able to reconcile and make that make sense to aliens who have no concept of that. So when he comes back from
Right.
being Benny,
Right.
and he's like, "Oh, I was in the past." And they're like, "What's the past?" He's like, "Well, this
Right.
happened way back before." Yeah, I think you could say that's how that would have worked out if they had taken the time to offer the explanation, but they
Right.
didn't.
Right. Well, and that would also
So,
bring up questions about how do Kira and Quark and the others also appear as characters in that timeline with Benny. That was his name. But yeah, no, that's a fair
well, because
idea. Like,
it's them, but it's not them. Like, because
yeah,
those are humans who just happen to look
right,
like these individuals.
right,
Um, Really quick to Vincent's point here about in the Star Trek Academy trailer, it says Cisco never returned. That trailer has a lot of issues. So I have decided not to pay attention to it. I haven't even decided if I'm going to watch this show or not. But if you go back through and look at the trailer, there are like there's a listing, there's a wall of like notable individuals, and on it it lists Lieutenant Nog, which we see here at the end of this episode. Nog is promoted to lieutenant. However, we also know that Nog becomes a captain. He has a whole ship class named after him, or no,
hmm
Aaron Eisenberg has a ship class named after him, but the ship is named the Nog because he is so
right,
famous. So why in this trailer is he just listed as Lieutenant Nog and not Captain Nog or Admiral Nog or
right,
whatever it was he would have become? So,
right.
and then there's some other things that jump out at you too that are errors. So, I I just discount that entire trailer. So don't pay any attention to it. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that. But
Yeah,
I do now,
yeah,
as I've also said before, I do know that there's the comic books. I've been reading those. This talks about the return of Cisco. I have looked online. These are considered canon, but as there are some writers out there who talk about this, and they say that basically anything and everything is considered canon right up until someone at Paramount or CBS or whatever
says no.
says nope, never mind,
Yeah,
which seems to be happening with greater and greater frequency. They made the point about how um, Star Trek Picard really screwed up the novelization of
Mhm.
the Next Generation after it ended. So apparently, there are several books, almost to the score of like maybe a couple hundred that were written for right where Next Gen ends and then on.
Mhm.
And I mean, people have gone all kinds of places with stories and storylines and character developments and everything else, and they
Right.
were all officially recognized by um, Paramount and CBS and everything else for a long time until Star Trek Picard, and now they're all like, it's a wash. Those don't matter. So
Yeah.
if you liked any of them, if you loved any of them, you like to think of them as canon. Unfortunately, they're not.
Yeah.
And the same is now being said of a lot. That the potential for that for things like this is high because
Right.
new shows like Strange New Worlds, this Academy show, a couple other projects are actively rewriting characters. So
Right.
just be aware. Just be
Yeah.
aware.
They did it to Star Wars as well. I didn't read the Star Wars expanded universe. I wasn't, a fan of it at all. But when Disney took over, they were like, it was lovely that you fans had like, beloved characters and beloved storylines, but we want to do our own thing, so and like cut all that out. Like such
Or
a
what's
brutal way
worse,
of treating your fans.
or what's worse is to read it and to see which characters your fans have really gravitated towards and say, okay, we're going to use that idea to make our own short story, but we are not using any of the material that you all have come to know and love in
Right.
these intervening years. You love Boba Fett. That's great. And we see all that great work you've done to extend the lore of Boba Fett. So we're going to take that character of Boba Fett and make a whole show about Boba Fett. But all that stuff that you have read about and come to know and appreciate, everything else gone. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
This is our
Yeah.
Boba Fett. Screw that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bad
Yeah.
idea.
So
In my opinion, at
yeah,
least.
it really
So
is. Like if you want to play in the universe, I mean that's fine. But I'm just of the opinion, especially when things become this complex, this diverse, that you should err on the side of caution and not use legacy characters.
right.
Establish new characters. Give us new stories, new characters to get to know versus you trying to fill in gaps that I didn't ask for or may have already been filled. You
Right.
know,
Right.
we're seeing that now with two characters actually on Strange New Worlds. One is Spock, and they're giving us more of Spock than we really ever needed. And Spock's been almost done to death and life and death again, and life again. But whatever. We Spock needs a rest, is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say on that. But then we have this other character of
The search for
Erica
Spock's naps.
Ortega's who, yeah, that's what that was. All the emotion and everything else that was tied to the Wrath of Khan and the search for Spock. It's now become Spock is almost the equivalent of South Park's Kenny. He dies every other movie. It's not even a big deal
I
anymore.
killed Spock.
You know, yeah, it's
You
okay.
bastard.
Just wait a minute, bring him back younger and with abs. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
but yeah, they did this most recent episode of Strange New Worlds with Erica Ortegas. I thought it was a great episode, but it's a nothing episode. It does absolutely nothing. It doesn't give us more of her in a way that moves her story forward enough. And of the alien that they
right.
introduce, it gives us nothing more on them that we didn't already know from 60 plus years ago. So it's like it's a
Right.
waste of an episode.
Right.
But again, that's a story for another time.
Yeah.
Let us talk about the only thing I really feel like we should be talking about, which is Ducat and Cisco. The showdown that we've been waiting for, that I feel like is kind of underwhelming when you
Yeah.
consider the episode, not Duet. What was the one where Ducat and Cisco were on the ship after Ducat had been captured and the ship crashes and Cisco's hurt and Ducat is losing his mind?
Yeah. That was season 6 for sure.
Yeah.
Um, or I believe it was.
It was season 6. It was like right in the middle of season 6. But it's a great episode where we're seeing Ducat once in that episode, he's trying to get Cisco to see just how alike the two of them are,
Right.
and Cisco's not buying it. And so
Walt.
now, if you take that episode, Waltz, there it is, yes. Um, when you take that episode and then you look at this finale, and you even hear in the scene where Kai Wynn is talking about the power race being freed, and they're going to finally give the prophets what they deserve. And she says, and their emissary. And Ducat's like, oh no, 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 no. Cisco is mine.
Yeah.
Like, even at this level and dealing with, for lack of a better term, God beings, even then, Ducat can't let go that there is this personal slight between him and Cisco that must be satisfied. That
Right.
that his all of his problems are not because Cisco is the emissary or anything like that. It is because Cisco is just a different man than him.
Right.
And he needs Cisco to see that, one, they're at first he needed them to see they were the same. But
Right.
now he's in to see he's better.
Right.
I've achieved all that you've achieved and then some. You're the emissary to the prophets. Well, I am the embodiment
Okay.
of the power race. I am better than you.
Right. The fact that I can physically force you to kneel before me with
Right.
my power. Yeah.
That's what he says. He's like, who's gonna stop me? He's like, I am. He's like, you can't even get off your knees.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That.
I was
When you,
gonna
when
ask
you,
you, what are you thinking of Ducat? Like, when you sit for it, just take a quick second and you consider Ducat from the moment we first saw him to now, that character arc. Um, Final thoughts, I guess,
yeah.
on Ducat while we do this.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest problem with the reason this confrontation just stinks is because all Cisco does in the end is grab Ducat and jump off an edge of a cliff. I mean, the confrontation between Kira and Jake when they were both embodying the two aspects of the prophets and the pod race was way more intense in that scene than this.
What would you say
Um,
that this scene would need then to elevate it to, oh, these are the real deal stakes? What would you want to see?
Man, that's a great question. If I've been given more time to think about it,
No, no, no.
to,
We do this now. Do it live.
yeah.
Do
Well,
it live.
to answer Vincent's question from earlier in the chat, he asked how soon do I watch an episode before we ever watch the episode, and then we immediately record shortly thereafter. But I watched this two-parter to record tonight because we started early, all that. So anyway, let me put it this way: Gul Dukat never really has a moment to bring about any sort of true devastation. He only embodies the Pa race for like 60 seconds. Cisco shows up, and that's another 60 seconds. And so he's not even embodied for like a full 5 minutes before it's all over. So here's what I'm thinking. I was initially, as you might remember me saying in our last couple episodes, I was actually liking the buildup of the fact that Kai Wynn and Ducat weren't being seen for several episodes. Well, it turns out he shows up having been healed. Waiting for him. It's anticlimactic. They go to the caves, and she recites a few things. She poisons him because she's mad that he slept with her and that she fell for his tricks. But so she tricks him, and then yeah, you're right that she doesn't get embodied, which is hilarious. But then he does, and again, he doesn't
Throw
have
her
a chance
against the
to.
wall.
Yeah, he doesn't have a chance to do anything with his new powers. So
Mhm.
let me put it this way: let's say when Cisco is on the Defiant and it's going toward Cardassia, if his vision from Sarah had been, okay, back on Bajor, things are getting bad because the Paw race had been released. And then the whole battle with Cardassia had been with Cisco sitting on the fact that, God dang it, I need to get back to Bajor right now. I am missing out on something I need to be doing. If that had been the emphasis of his of the whole episode is that while you're dealing with one major issue, another one is taking place. That would have been so much better. That's what I think ultimately should have been done. Gul Dukat should have been wrecking some sort of havoc on Bajor while as the pod race. Now, Kai Wynn is her situation is a little weird because like when he says I'm burning the galaxy, when Gul Dukat says he's gonna burn everything that, but the problem there is that when she warns Cisco, she gets burned up by Gul Dukat. So are we saying that she's redeemed in any capacity? I don't think they are,
No,
but I wanted her
no.
comeuppance
I
to
really
be a
just think that she was. I I I liked it.
yeah,
And here's why. I liked it because this was Kai Wynn once again um, being rejected for her avarice, her greed,
right,
and for the audacity to assume that she would have an elevated status that she didn't earn. But she didn't earn. When she
right,
was a
right,
Vedic, she schemed, she plotted, she did all these terrible things to maneuver herself into positions of power. She didn't earn it because she was the most devout or because she had a genuine following or anything like that. She did a lot of stuff out of fear and scheming.
right,
And so watching her still be put down because those are again inherently negative qualities to then see her basically confronted with the Bajoran equivalent of demons, and she is this nasty person, and them still being like, "You're not good enough," and just casually tossing her
aside,
aside.
yeah,
I loved it. And it was just like you have betrayed everything that you believed all of your life for nothing,
right,
for absolutely nothing.
right,
And I wish, if anything, we had gotten to see her really have to deal with and reconcile that aspect of
right.
herself. You know,
Well, what I'm really getting at though is that she seems to have a moment where she's unhappy with like Gul Dukat threatens to burn the universe, and she's like, "No, don't do that." I wanted her to be more like, "No, that's supposed to be me." Like she
well,
seems
because
to,
I mean, I took it as that
yeah,
because she again, she asked them to take her on. They
yeah,
they fire the thing at her to knock her into the wall. They take over Ducat. She then awakens to see Ducat is alive, and she's horrified. And I've never subscribed to this being the horrifying that because it's Ducat. It was because she was horrified they didn't choose her.
well,
And so now she is trying to be, a woman scorned to a degree, and she is going to interfere with or try to stop Ducat, not because he's the true embodiment of evil, but because he was chosen and she wasn't.
right. Oh, and I want to fully agree with you in the sense that like when she's promising herself to the pod race, she says, "I'm eternally yours. I give
Hmm.
myself to you." Like she makes all these promises that Gul Dukat technically didn't, and then
Never
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Ducat never said any of
anything.
that.
Right.
If anything, all Ducat ever said was, "Give me the ability to take out my enemies
Right.
and to make these people love me and worship me like they should and like I deserve." That to me was always Ducat's
Hmm.
underlying message. My problem isn't like he was, to him it was my problem isn't that, the Bajorans defeated us during the occupation. My problem is they never loved me enough. They never
Right.
honored me enough, and they need to be
Right.
taught a lesson for that.
Right.
That has always
Right.
been how I've viewed Ducat.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I guess I'll just say this. When I was watching the episode, when Kai Wynn says no and like she tries to throw away the book and all that, it feels in that moment to me that she was doing more something of like, "Oh, I'm regretting my actions because like he's threatening to burn everything," as opposed to if he had promised, well, she's selfish. Maybe I'm just wrong, but
Like a
I don't know.
last moment of redemption, she suddenly
Yeah, it almost seems redemptive because she like seems to regret her actions. but she wasn't given enough time to. We don't really know what she's going to do. All we know is that her crying out distracts Ducat long enough for Cisco to do what he needs to do. That's what I'm getting at, I guess. Is like it turns out that Kai Wynn was necessary to undo everything she did to release the Paul race in the first place to make Cisco capable of like. That's why that whole scene falls apart because like Cisco doesn't really do much. He just suddenly
Yeah.
knows he needs to be there and
So
suddenly shows up.
so as a person who's watched all of this now many times,
Right.
I always felt like this show could have used an eighth season, and I think that over time you will find there are a lot of fans who agree with me. And the only reason that I feel like it needs an eighth season is because that's what would be great to see is the Ducat, Adami, Cisco story arc. Cisco, Cisco has now just defeated the Dominion, and everybody is ready to go into peacetime.
Right.
But Ducat and Adami have disappeared, and now they are on this quest to free the Power Race and bring about this galactic end. And
Uh-huh.
there are things they need to do to set this in motion, right?
Right.
Um, and so it's kind of almost like a weird Indiana Jones type scenario where they're traveling around to these far flung reaches of the Alpha Quadrant and whatever to find the necessary artifacts or the people or the lost power race or whatever it is. The law, 'cause we have the orbs, right? Those are never really explained. We could have, and we know that there are 12 of them, but we've only ever seen like 6 or 7. So maybe
Right.
there's another set that are we have the orbs of the prophets, we have the orbs of the power race, and so we
Mm,
need to find them, and they need to be reconciled. And if the right person doesn't do the reconciling, either A, it'll set the galaxy ablaze, or B, it will seal the power rates forever, and
right.
now we'll truly have lasting peace. And so now we see that's the eighth season is watching Cisco go through this thing, and so it could be a limited crew. Don't have to be on Deep Space Nine so much. We can still have him with some aspect of family, but we can wrap that part up with a bit more um, less loose ends,
Right.
and give that aspect of the story the full time and attention that it needs to make it when we finally get to that true showdown between Ducat and Cisco,
Right.
make it really, really impactful. Not a 15 minutes of two people kind of sort of monologuing and then it's over.
Right.
We needed more. You're right. I've always agreed. We've needed more on that.
Right. And as you were talking, I was trying to think of like what else would I do. Here's what I do. We need to tie the Dominion storyline to the Prophet storyline.
Yeah.
While I do like how we have Odo talk with her, he heals her. Somehow that convinces her to surrender, which I can kind of understand because the Great Link is unique to the Changelings, and there's something unique about that, and something about Odo has matured to the point where he can now do it,
He,
and he can
he can
communicate
he can more fully share his experience living amongst the
exactly
solids and why his trust is so deep and complete in
right.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. However, this is I think something that's been interesting. The Changelings have been worshipped by Wayun and the but here comes Gul Dukat, embodied beings that have been considered gods by the Bajorans. So if Gul Dukat had somehow been able to meet up with the changeling woman, and something about his godhood was more realistic than hers, like that could have been an interesting kind of confrontation. Like you thought you were gods, you were treated as gods, but you've lost this war. I am now your final option. I have power beyond anything you ever knew. Um, you threw me aside as Gul Dukat, but I returned to you embodied by the Paw Race. That would have been an interesting kind of storytelling moment. I think something could have been done with that. I mean, I don't know where to go with it at the moment,
I
but
get okay. So what about because we know at the same time that Cisco and Martok are fighting the Dominion over Cardassia that Ducat and Adami were making their way through the fire caves. So what if in that moment when Ducat was inhabited by the Pah-wraith,
Hmm.
he had used his newfound abilities to kind of reach out and project himself in front of the dying. Um,
Winston Duarte. Duarte. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm just but yeah, he just would have said he would have, but instead of being all crazy, he just would have been like, "Look, you guys rejected me. I had this plan a long time ago, and you
Hmm.
guys rejected me. Now here I am, the embodiment of my plan, and I could have helped you, but I'm not going to.
Right.
Instead, what I'm going to do is make your situation worse to see that you actually needed me,
Right.
and
Mm.
maybe wipe out half of the Dominion forces."
Mm. Okay.
And so then it's like, okay, the Federation won, but you didn't win clean. You didn't win
Right.
honest. You had help from the Pirates.
Right.
And so this would also alert everybody to the next level threat that is out there somewhere
Right.
in the form of these Pirates,
Right.
you know. Um
Well,
and
I
it still would have forced their hand to surrender because they would have lost half their troops.
right. Yeah. Well, I also like the idea of something doing with the wormhole. The celestial temple. If he had gone to the female changeling and been like, "I'm gonna reopen the wormhole for you," because they, the prophets had locked it down from the Dominion being able to send any more ships through. I don't know what he would have done though. Like, what? Why would he have gone to her to offer anything
I don't
other?
think that he would have gone to her to offer anything. I think that
Yeah.
it would have been like, once again, you are a people who did not see my value and you thought you could cast me aside.
Right.
To me, it's more fitting for Ducat to be like, all of you people were against me, and I'm gonna punish you for being against me. Oh,
My cup. Thank you for my
yeah,
cup, by the way.
you're welcome. Um, but I that's what I feel like, he would have
Yeah.
been punishing them for not being with him.
Right.
And so that's why he wouldn't offer her anything, but he would have instead punished her
Right.
to still bring her low by making her still have to surrender to the Federation. But now it wasn't because Odo intervened and showed her the light so
Right.
much as it was because Ducat just took out half your forces
Of
in an
course.
instant, and
Yeah.
you've got no choice,
Right.
you know, which would have complicated the surrender a bit because now there's no need for Odo to go home
Right.
other than his own desire to do so,
Right.
and yeah, that could have opened that story up for a lot of other things to happen
Right.
along that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Gul Dukat he's been the oldest enemy on the show. He's been the villain from the very get go. All other enemies that we've had along the way were always secondary in terms of at least chronologically. He was always our main villain, and he had his ups and downs, even almost becoming a good guy. But yeah, him going out just because Cisco throws him over a cliff. Like, I even would say that maybe Gul Dukat should become, infinite as well. Like, he dies, his body dies, but he too somehow becomes like one with the Paw Wraiths, and now Cisco and Gul Dukat are on some sort of spiritual like from here to eternity,
Locked
locked in
together
eternal
in a
battle.
battle for all. Yeah, I hate that. I would hate that for
No?
Cisco though.
Okay,
I
I'm
would
just
hate that
trying
for
to
Cisco.
theorize stuff.
But I mean, I understand, and I feel like I've seen that in something before where there was like there's these two kind of cosmically powered beings, and they're locked in a battle, and as long as they're fighting each other, they're evenly matched.
Right,
So but if anybody interferes with it, you're going to upset the balance, which will
right,
throw off the universe that has kind of sprung up around their battle.
right.
So you don't want to upset that. Yeah, I feel like I've seen that somewhere,
Yeah, I'm sure
but
we could.
I can't remember.
Hey, Vincent,
Yeah.
go figure that out for us. uh yeah, so I don't know. I'll just say it this way one more time: is that the Cisco final battle with Gul Dukat, it leaves something to be desired. It comes too quickly. Again, Cisco, he's in the middle of, you know getting the song sung, and he tells, his wife, "Oh, I know what I need to go do." It turns out I need to go throw a guy off a cliff real fast. Um,
It's kind of the Game of Thrones season 8 problem before Game of
yeah,
Thrones.
yeah,
You have this great build up, you give us a lot of expectation. You've got two really great characters in your protagonist and antagonist,
right,
and then you don't use them. You don't fully utilize them anyway.
right,
You kind of let that story just drop because it's the end and there's nowhere else for you to go because you don't have the time
right,
to do the thing anymore. So it's well, yeah, it's a little upsetting. And then, like I said, it leaves other aspects unresolved. Like, yeah, okay, you've taken care of the major battle and you've given all your other characters kind of a send off. We know what they're going to be up to more or less, but
right,
your main character, your captain, excuse me, your captain of all people, um, you've left out there in the ether. So yeah, I'm never going to agree with that. I wish that they had done more, and that's another reason why I was so eager to pick up this um, comic book, because the comic book picks up from there
right.
and lets you get some, hopefully some kind of resolution. I've not finished it yet. I know I've had it for a while, but I've not finished it yet. So I'm looking forward to, now that we've done this,
Right,
giving this more time
right,
to do that.
right.
But um, yeah, I just don't like that kind of a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It'd be like if TNG legitimately was all about Will Wheaton, and the finale was literally him going off and being the journeyman or whatever it was that he became.
Traveler,
The traveler, that it
traveler.
is. Um, yeah, Picard, I mean, he does have his moment with Q. I mean, he doesn't become a Q being like Q is.
No,
Picard is not meant to be a Q. He's meant to challenge Q. Um, I really want to watch the Picard show because I know that Q shows back up. I think for season two.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And that one, it's that ending with Q is another one of those that, like, I feel like it starts very weak and is very confused for a large part of it. And they do a great job of making it make sense in the end. But you also have to really, really pay attention. Otherwise, when Q reveals all of why he did what he did, it won't make a lot of sense to
hmm,
you. But I enjoyed it. Like, once, because I watched it twice, and I don't want to spoil it for you. That's why I'm trying to be very vague about it. But like, when he
sure.
gets to the point where it's like it is the end, but for them, it's the end of the season and everybody's saying their goodbyes and everything else. Q and Picard have a moment, and they're talking about it. And Picard even asks him, he's like, "What do you mean? Like, what are you trying to say?"
Right.
And he's like, "All of this has been about one thing." And I was like, it makes perfect sense. Like, if you think about it, if you go back and look at from the moment we met Q,
Hmm.
and then how Q kind of developed, he went from a general curiosity of humanity down to really kind of focused on Jean Luc. When we finally get to the end, it's like, oh, well, that does make sense. So okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I look forward to getting around to that eventually. So
yeah,
we'll have to talk about it when we get there. But yeah, back to this. I guess we should kind of talk about the Dominion War because I feel like
yeah,
the Dominion War ending that was all good stuff. I really did
yeah.
like all that. Um, there are a few critiques
And
I
and
have
you
of
got
it.
to you got to see the remastered, updated version
Oh,
that they've done. I noticed when I
oh,
went
of the
back and
final
watched it,
battle.
of the final battle. I went back and I watched it, and I was, taking a look, and yeah, they all of the space fight scenes that you see have all been remastered. So they're clearer, they're crisper, they look great, but
Yeah,
that is not how it originally aired 30 years ago.
I bet. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, the scene, the whole battle makes sense. The Dominion is on their back foot. They're having retreat to more, to a more defensive position, and the Federation alliance knows they need a lot of lives and ships. And the Cardassians switch position. I think that the Cardassians should have switched in the battle at the idea that the Cardassians wait till like halfway through the battle before switching is a bit of a mistake because it means that a number of them get shot up. Maybe it turns out that if we actually had like some background, like if we were to like go behind the scene, or not behind the scenes, but like if we had been on the Cardassian side, we could see what they were doing. Maybe they decided in the middle of the battle to switch sides. Like there was an argument amongst the Cardassians about what side they were going to be on. And for the first half, they're like, we got to save the Dominion, and they saw how it was going, and then they decided to switch sides. In the moment, it felt like it was a
Well,
self-destructive
that's kind of
choice.
in well, it's kind of implied because we hear
Yeah, that's
first
true.
that the Dominion is going to start bombing Cardassian cities. They destroyed that one
Laconia.
city, Lacarian, yeah, whatever it was called, Lacarian city, not Laconia. You over there thinking of to the Expanse again,
Yeah.
um, Lacarian city.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, it's like basically once the word gets out that the Dominion is doing this to Cardassian citizens, that's when they decide to change sides. So
Right.
now we don't get to see the conversations on any of the ships or anything like that. That's one thing about this show. They do kind of treat the Cardassians as a bit of a monolith towards the end of the run, which is
Right.
interesting because, initially early on, it seemed like they were very intent on establishing just how different Cardassians are. We have the teacher with her students who are running in
Mhm.
political exile, the one that
That was
Fatima
like
Lang.
season 2, right? That was
Yeah,
early on.
season 1, season 2, she was used to be in love with Quark. We see that. We see, that Legate, what his name? Parma, I think it was, who, um, lost his daughter, Ileana, and
Mhm.
was a leader of the underground resistance movement. And
Mhm.
we see the boy, Rugal, who was an adopted Cardassian orphan who was adopted
Yeah.
by some Bajorans. I
Yeah.
mean, we we meet lawyers, we meet judges, we meet scientists. Like they did all this stuff very early on,
Right.
but then by like season 5, it all just drops away. And they're like, nope, they're all soldiers. Everybody's a soldier.
Right.
So I thought that was really weird the way that they suddenly switched gears on that. And I think that would have been more interesting if they had included more people from diverse backgrounds within the Cardassian people who were rising up to take part in this
Rebellion.
rebellion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my one critique of the rebellion is that Damar dies. I thought his redemption journey. I'm sorry that he dies. I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that it was a bad choice, and it's a realistic choice.
Yeah.
Um, People die in battle, and he got shot in a legitimate way. Through the middle of shooting at some Jem'Hadar soldiers, and they get a good
He
shot off
takes
on
like
him.
6 shots. So it's not just
Yeah,
one. He
yeah,
takes like 6 shots.
yeah. Like he didn't
So
go down in a in a bad way. There's another word I could use, but yeah, he goes down, and it's sad and unfortunate. But the only reason I don't like it is because it leaves the whole Cardassian storyline up in the air. Because he was the one who was, as Kira was the one who pointed out to him, hey, remember Cardassians did this to the Bajoran. So he was the one who was on the emotional and the spiritual journey about how Cardassia had done terrible things to the Bajorans. Um, yeah,
and he even thanks her in this one. He says, when this is all over, we will have you to thank for this. Seriously,
exactly.
if it wasn't for you, this movement would have died
Yeah,
a
and
long time ago.
for example, the fact that Kira becomes the commander of Deep Space Nine totally makes sense. But how radical would it have been if her character actually became the ambassador to the Cardassians from the Bajoran people? Like, if Worf's going to go become an ambassador, what Kira becoming ambassador to the Cardassians would have been just all that much more like shocking and
Yeah, but it
revelatory
also would have
and
pissed
like
people off because I mean, with Worf leaving, and if Kira had also left, Odo's gone. Bashir is not in the chain of command, not really, and O'Brien is
yes,
leaving.
yeah,
That means they would have been installing a
and
new person to be the commander of the station, and all of your no,
make it
all of your
Ross.
well, I'm just saying
Make it
all of your
Ross.
regulars would have been
No,
gone. we'd have been left dealing with
Right.
new people. So you
That's
can
true.
you can have new people,
Yeah.
but we need to know the person at the top is someone who has been there and truly earned it and knows the situation. And that's why Kira was
Right.
selected for that. I mean, it's not to say that she still can't be in some ways an ambassador because
Right. She's the head of the station where a
right.
lot of ambassadors come. Then what I would have done then, I like what you're saying. I would have had her final scene like they had, she picks up the baseball of Cisco. I would have had that final last
Mhm.
camera angle is her getting some sort of message from, Damar saying we'll be arriving at the
From
station
Garrick,
as
because
planned.
Damar's dead. So
Or from Garrick. Yeah, great point. Yeah.
it could have been
Oh
that
yeah,
Garrick is
Garrick
coming
could
to the
be the
station with
ambassador.
yeah, Garrick's the new ambassador and he is coming to the station with the new heads of state.
Right.
And so they're trying to get everything ready for the new heads of state from Cardassia.
Right. Yeah, Vincent points out that Damar killed Zial, so maybe he can only redeem himself in death. All right.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah,
Oh
he's
yeah,
done
he
some
had to
pretty
die.
bad stuff.
He had to die for that. Like as much as he had a great story arc and change and everything else, he did kill a truly innocent individual,
True.
and he was going to have to pay for that. He
Yeah.
was definitely going to have to pay for that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. By the end, I had kind of forgotten that he did that. So part of me is like, I don't know. His
well,
his
that's
character
me.
arc at the end was pretty intense. So I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Um, Let me put it this way.
and I think that
I
and
would
that's
have.
what I like. That's what I like about the character of Damar. Like we've talked about this before. We talked about it. I think last two episodes, as a matter of fact. I mean, Damar starts off as a nothing background character, even so much so that the actor Casey Biggs had to be convinced to continue to return
Right.
for the supporting role because he wanted to get out. He wanted to do other things. I mean, it makes perfect sense. You're trying to have a career here. But they were like, "We have plans for you, but we
Right.
need you to be here."
Right.
And it works because when he does step finally into that role, we as the audience, we can remember when we were first introduced to him
Right.
and when he got his first speaking line. Because he was in a couple episodes where he never spoke. He
Right.
was just a background Cardassian.
Right.
And then when he did speak, he was just in awe and adoration of
Right.
Gul Dukat. And he was mean. He was vicious. He was brutal. He was
Right.
everything we didn't like about the kind of toady, lackey persona that they were setting him up to be.
Right.
And now here we are to the point where we're almost ready to forgive the guy, to set him up as the martyr,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
to
I would say to Vincent's point that he killed Zial. Well, Damar's family was also brutally killed, so in that sense, he got his comeuppance, and that's not he wasn't punished personally in that sense. I get it, but I don't know. I like the idea of characters being redeemed. I think that's a powerful part of storytelling. So I
yeah,
like the idea that Damar was kind of redeemed, and his death, while fair, well, it was again. Don't get me wrong. Storytelling wise, it made sense. He's not a main character. We could kill him off. That's fine. But part of me wishes that we could have kept him around because his character arc had gone in a certain direction. But yeah.
mhm,
Anyway, yeah, the whole plot there makes sense. The Cardassian guards that killed the Jim Hadar guys in the middle of capturing the three of them. It explains how they were able to escape. And one of
mhm.
them dies, like there are two
Yeah,
guys, and one of them gets killed in retaliation before they get
because
the other
there are three Jem'Hadar, so they killed two, and the third one is
gets the
able to get a
other.
shot off. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good scene. The housekeeper lady whose name I forget, she
Mila, Mila.
she dies, and Garrick has a little monologue where he says, I always dreamed of coming back, even to this house and to Mila, and but things have changed so much since my vision is not the same of what I'm actually experiencing. The only scene that didn't work for me is when they were trying to make a scene of them laughing outside the base
You
and like they
know,
can't get in, and they're trying to be like this is funny because it's just so ridiculous, but
it's so dire and it's the situation is so dire, so grim, and yet this ridiculous, trivial thing is
what's
stopping
stopping us.
us. And that is a trope that gets trotted out in almost every war conflict scenario there is. All of them do it, where
Right.
there's suddenly this moment of absurdity that
Right.
has to be injected in, and some are executed well. Others, like I agree with you. This one here, not so much.
It fell
The
flat.
laughter, yeah, the laughter seemed a little too boisterous, too forced.
Yeah.
Almost wish they hadn't done it, or that maybe not all of them had engaged in it. I think that might have helped a
Yeah.
little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah,
If that had turned, if Garrick had said that's what's going to stop us, and Kira said, "Look at me dying for Cardassians," and then Damar saying, "We're this close and yet so far," and they're all laughing for the same overall reason, but the specifics are a little different, and
hmm
they're all laughing for their own private reasons. That would make a little more sense. But I
yeah,
also like the fact that the way they got in is the fact that the Jem'Hadar go to take out that one guy, that one collaborator Cardassian, and to go
yeah.
to execute him, and they turn out that they accidentally opened up the building to the people coming in. I actually liked that. I felt like that was a realistic reason for why they could
The
have
door
gotten
suddenly
in.
opened, right?
Yeah, the door, they couldn't bomb it open. It was properly protected, but it was the hubris of the female changeling and the fact that the Jem'Hadar actually are kind of a little bit incompetent. Let's be real. They've always been slightly incompetent the whole
If you
time.
think about it, if you think about it, the only time that the Jem'Hadar were ever really truly successful, it was when they were led by a Jem'Hadar
The
first,
way
who
ah,
not Wayoon, but by the first, who was
but that's the
you have
Wayun episode, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we're talking about. But yeah, but though it's when that Jem'Hadar first tends to break away from the Wayoon or the Vorta
yes,
control a little bit,
right.
then they seem to be much more ruthless, deadly, and
Yeah.
competent at their jobs. But
Well,
when they are in that zone of blind obedience,
yeah,
they suck.
yeah. Well, was it the idea that in the Alpha Quadrant they had been doing things differently, like making them age faster or something, and they like changed up
They
the way
were
they were doing the Jim I think I remember hearing
yeah,
something
but they
about
but
that at
then
one
they
point.
we watched that whole episode. We watched that episode, and then they were like, "We don't like it." They're like, yeah, these Alpha Quadrant Jem'Hadar are impulsive and
Right.
they're harder to
Right.
control, and
Yes.
they make these mistakes, and we don't like it. So we're gonna bring back the Gamma Quadrant Jem'Hadar, who are more obedient, more
Right.
subservient, they
Right.
less headstrong,
Right.
and so you could say that that's why there was a problem, because for a while they were winning, but
Yeah.
then when they brought back the old guard, that blind obedience messed them up.
Oh, I was thinking it the other way is that the blind obedient ones, I mean, they helped conquer the Gamma Quadrant, but
But the Gamma Quadrant has always been different. Like the people, the
true.
power structure, and everything else has
True.
been different.
True.
And the people in the Dominion, and or not the Dominion, but in the Gamma Quadrant, were already used to the Dominion. They had been operating under some form of Dominion control for thousands of years.
Right.
There was nothing like that in existence in the Alpha Quadrant. And so you're
Right.
bringing that kind of methodology into a people who, for their last thousands of years, have all been existing under some form of freedom of expression, of autonomy, of sovereignty, of able to do whatever you want. And you're trying to just inject your order into their chaos, and that's
Right.
why it failed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, at the very least, I have to say it. The Jem'Hadar the whole time, even at their best, were slightly incompetent. They were always, I don't know, they were kind of stormtroopery at times in terms of they would miss when they were supposed to be elite soldiers, when they would shoot their weapons. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it is what it is. You need the bad guys to be kind of cannon fodder a bit. So whatever. Um, but yeah, the fights. Let's see, all that fighting, them confronting the female changeling, and she's like, make you pay for this victory as if it'll be as
You're
bitter
gonna
as
pay
if you
for
had
every
been in
inch.
defeat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a great way of, you know, like, I'm going to defend myself to the bitter end. I'm going to make you pay for it. And that's what like Nazi Germany and the Japanese were doing in World War II. That's the argument for why we dropped the atomic bomb, was that the Japanese were gonna, like, if we wanted them to capitulate and we wanted them to surrender their main islands, we were gonna invade. But the bombs, the idea was is that we could basically hurt you when you can't hurt us. whatever you think about the morality of dropping the bomb, that was part of the argument, was that in order to get the surrender of the Japanese without American civilians, um, or sorry, American casualties, not civilians, excuse me. Japanese civilians might die, but they were all being trained for war, etc. Anyway, point is that her fight to the last minute really interesting. That Odo convinces her to stop all that by linking with her. Um, it's curious. I mean, we don't get exactly what he said to her when they or what exactly happens, but for
I mean,
this
it's very
time,
clear there is an exchange.
yes, and it's more than just healing her. I mean, he was only healed because the Section 31 had a cure to the
Mhm.
disease that they invented. So I'm curious. I mean, maybe it's the Kira angle. It must be. I fell in love with it with the solid. I, a changeling, fell in love with the solid, and our relationship is pure and all that.
I definitely I would definitely say that that is a major part of it. But I also think that it is the way in which he, through the last 7 years, has been treated by these individuals on the station. His relationship with each of them in turn informs him. Yeah, but with Cisco, Bashir, O'Brien, all of them, because they just don't, let him kind of live and let live. They try to include him in things. He's a part of their holodeck programs. He's the umpire at Cisco's baseball game. He
Right,
comes to the dinner parties. He was a part of Jadzia's Jantar. He got to embody Curzon Dax for us for a while.
right,
He's definitely played a much more personal part in all of these people's lives.
right,
Um, so he has a unique perspective on what it means to be a part of it rather than to be an observer or to be a person who's kind of hiding by changing your shape to blend in. He was just himself. He never had to pretend to look Bajoran or look human or look Cardassian to be a
mhm,
part of it. He was just himself and he got to experience all of these things, the good and the bad. Like he
right,
was working for the Cardassians as their, kind of lawyer for hire or whatever it was. But you know, I think that that gave him a unique perspective, and he's able to definitively make statements that no one else could. Which he says to the changeling, the
right,
founder woman. He says, because she's like, we've spent the last 2 years trying to destroy the Federation, and now you want me to put our faith, our lives in their hands. He's like, yeah,
yeah,
and the Federation will protect you.
right,
And they'll protect you from the Romulans, from the Klingons, from whomever. They will, because that's what they do,
right,
you know. And yeah, I think he's able to really not just say it, but then communicate that to her,
right,
show her, and then that's why she was able to stand down.
right.
You know,
I also feel part of it might have also been, I don't know. I mean, she doesn't say it, so I'm just speculating. She was always afraid as a changeling about the history of other species against changelings. Like they would always be attacked.
hmm
And then here she is literally commanding the complete and utter genocide of the Cardassians. Like if she ever had a moment of self-reflection, if Odo is the one who has to cause her to self-reflect, hey, remember how you didn't like being treated real badly and like being hunted as a species? Like, yeah, doing that now. Any self reflection? I'm just speculating. That was one of the most interesting things about that whole choice is the punish the Cardassians so drastically for
hmm
or their initially it was just their inability to perform. The war's been going on for so long that they needed to get the Breen involved. I I mean, the Breen didn't have a chance to say, "Hey, we don't like the fact that you just turned on your allies so quickly and you're now
Well,
destroying them."
if you notice, the Breen were starting to make their own maneuvers and were trying to place themselves into greater and greater positions of power and influence,
True,
if so
true,
that
true.
if the war ended in their favor, they suddenly were going to have their hold on both the Romulan Empire and the Federation.
Yes.
And even then, the Jem'Hadar were going to be taking a back seat to bring troops,
And
which
Wei
we
Yun
know.
was not going to have control of certain sectors,
Yeah.
except he then promises him he will have control of Earth and other sectors. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scheming, a lot of scheming going on here, and we don't really know the full strength of any group's ability. Like the Breen are still very much a mystery here.
yeah,
Like we don't know their full strength of their armies and their people and how many they can commit to um, an engagement of that size. You're taking on the Romulan military and the Federation military. Like, granted, y'all have just you fought a war, and so there's not going to be as much resistance. But still, I mean, your numbers would have had to diminish as well,
right.
right? So, I mean, yeah, the Breen are fascinating in that mystery shielding that they've got going on there.
Yeah.
So, I think I would actually have loved to see more of them. Now, I do know that they pop up in Star Trek Discovery. We do get a lot more about the Breen. Whether or not you like it, that's you know up to you. Um, I will say I disagreed with some things that they showed, but whatever. It was the future, so there you go. Before we close our show out, we of course have to talk about um, Major Kira and Odo and saying goodbye. We know that Odo very much loved Kira. We know that they had this weird, unrequited love thing going on for a long time. They finally seemed to get it together and got together. And now, in the midst of all this stuff that's happened, Odo nearly dying, being separated from each other. I mean, it just seems like just when we finally got them together, suddenly there's a lot of things driving them apart. And now it's all over. You also be able to relax and truly be together. And now Odo is going to go and be with his people. So,
Yeah.
how do you feel about Odo's decision after all of this to return and stay in the Great Lake? As far as we know, he's not coming back.
Yeah, I was a little surprised he didn't make any sort of promise like Cisco does. Cisco says I'll be back, but in my timey wimey ways.
Mm.
Uh, Odo doesn't promise anything. Um, I expected him to say something to the effect of, once my job here is done, I'll come back, or at least I'll see you again, or I promise, or I intend to see you again. He never
Or
says
you can
that.
come and visit. You know
Yeah,
where we live. You can come and visit.
right. No, he goes. I mean, he waves to her the whole time he's walking down into the pool of other changelings. But that's the last we see of him as an individual, presumably forever. You
Yeah.
can tell me if that's true or not, I
Well,
guess. But
so I have not discovered any books or comics or anything like that that talk about them coming back together. However, on the game Star Trek Online, they are reunited. There are some things that happen that bring them back together and also keep them apart. There's some stuff that the founders were up to that gets found out, and it's a pretty interesting storyline. It seems to make you think that Odo
might be
may have
evil
drank
now.
yeah, may have drank
Mm.
the founder Kool-Aid and is starting his own kind of issue. But then, of course, we partner up with Kira and you do some other things. Garrick's in it, Wayun is in it.
The way
It's
you'd
actually
just
a
be
pretty
dead.
interesting.
That's curious.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there's a reason why this Wayun appears.
Okay,
Um, so yeah, there's all these things that happen, and then but eventually they do reconcile, and at the end of the mission, Kira and Odo are together.
gotcha.
Um, so there's that.
Okay. Well,
Um,
presuming that we I'm curious that they end it this way again because Cisco says he's coming back in the sense
I
that
I would just want to I just wanted to say really quick, if you do play the game and you play this mission, the voices are done by the original actors. Kira,
oh wow,
Odo, all of them, they're legitimately back.
Renee they got
And
Renee
so,
back and
yes, and so to that end, I don't care what they do with their storyline. If they do some kind of weird Elseworlds, what ifs, whatever nonsense. I'm accepting the game version as canon for one reason and one reason only. It is
yeah,
because One, I mean, yes, the actress voiced it, but it's because Rene Auberjonois was back as Odo, and it's the last thing he did as Odo before he died. So, to
Yeah,
me, that sealed it. There
yeah,
is nothing else. That's it.
yeah.
He came back. He did the role, and that's that.
Right.
So, yeah, there's your canon. They're
There
together.
you go.
Done.
Yeah. I'll say this. I like that he does what he does. The Kira Odo relationship for me, again, it was kind of little times a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm on board with it. By the time I did get on board with it, it was near the end. Certainly the whole bit of like Kira understanding that Odo is pretending to be fine when actually he's really suffering, and she knows not to challenge him. If he needs to put on a brave face, she's going to let him put on a brave face, and he tells her to leave him at his deathbed. He doesn't want her to see him die because she's already seen other people die, and she doesn't want him to remember. She doesn't want her to remember
He
him
he does not
as
want her
dying.
to remember that.
Like
Yeah.
they know each other well enough by the end. Okay, it makes sense. And that scene, here in season 7, where it's after Odo had talked with the other changeling, and he reveals like his true form, and he like floats up and becomes like a ball of
Some
light or
weird light.
something.
Yeah.
Like we don't even see it fully. We just know that Kira gets to see some fuller version of him. Like that's all great. However, he was still a changeling, and changelings, they have a pull toward the Great Link. I mean, he was so tempted by the Great Link that he almost gave into it when the station was in, but the Dominion's
Dominion
hands.
control. Yeah.
So I like the idea that, honestly, he is supposed to return to the Great Link. His whole purpose, the reason they sent him out, was so that he could return and share what he learned. So
Gather knowledge, bring it back.
his
Yes.
story was supposed to, in a way, be this. It was supposed to end this way for him. Yes, can he go back to Kira after at some point, as you say, the Star Trek Online story time allows to happen? 100%. But yeah, it makes sense. Like Cisco, he is to the changelings as Cisco is to the Bajorans in a sense. It's an inverted relationship, but still has a lot of crossovers. And yeah, he it makes sense that he goes back. It allows Kira to have her promotion, and I'll put it this way: it's a bittersweet ending. What do you want from really good stories? You want a bittersweet ending. You want the characters to have sacrificed something, but been victorious. They
Mhm.
all of their storytelling it came to a head. We see all the details come together. The problem with Cisco's storyline is that they brought up some things too last minute for us.
Yeah.
But Odo's really does tie together much more, much better. The bow is much
Yeah.
nicer.
And they gave us too many anchors in the Cisco storyline to make us want it to end a different way.
Right,
If they had wanted us to accept that Cisco was never going to return, he never should have married Cassidy.
right,
They never should have gotten married. They should
right,
not have made that relationship that solid,
right.
to be honest. And they
Yeah,
certainly should not have made her pregnant. They
yeah,
should have made it to where, like Jake, he's a man now. He's ready to move on with his life. He, has accepted that, and it shows acceptance that his father is not going to be around, you know, and that he
right,
doesn't need his father to be around the way that 9-year-old or 12-year-old Jake would have.
right,
You know, don't let us watch this kid grow up and accept that, and then drop another kid in our lap with the man that we know loves his kids,
right,
who would never leave his kids. Doesn't make any
right.
sense.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
right about Odo. Odo's whole story from the beginning has been wanting to find a place where he belongs, and
right,
knowing that no matter how friendly and comfy and cozy he may be on the station, it's not where he belongs. And when he finally discovered the link for the first time, as he described in his own words, it was paradise. That's where he is supposed to be. And despite his friendships,
right,
despite his love for Kira, despite all their experiences, that is a feeling he can never let go. He has to return.
right.
Makes sense. It
Yeah,
absolutely makes sense.
yeah, yeah. And it's again, there's the sacrifice element of that other changeling was telling him, leave the solids, but his whole purpose was to be. He's the emissary to the solids for the changelings. That's his role. In fact, if someone had said that in the show, you were always the emissary for the Solids to the Changelings. Like that would have been a great little tie-in. Kira could have said that to him at the last moment, and I would have loved it even more. I don't know. Anyway, it's a
No, you're
great
right.
scene. I'm glad that like Keiko also shows up briefly so that we can see her with and what's their daughter's name?
Molly
Molly. I love the
and the baby Kiryoshi.
yeah, but Molly being like, "I want to play with your toys. Like, I let you play with mine," and he's all defensive. It's like, "It's not a toy."
Not a toy. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, great scene. Like, I love the fact that yes, it makes sense for him to go back to Earth to be with his family and teach
And to
or
live a calmer life. You know,
yes,
you've been out here, you were on the Enterprise for a long time. Now you're on the station,
right,
you've made some great friends, everything else, but it's time to calm all that down and really be a family man. You
right,
know, you've got another baby, here that you need to raise. Yeah, do something safer.
right. Yeah, glad we had that scene. Um, well, let's talk about Bashir and what's her
Well,
face,
before we get to
Esri.
those two, we can still
Yeah.
talk about Bashir and O'Brien.
Okay.
I like that Bashir was kind of like thought he was reading the situation and being like, "Yeah, I understood. I already knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, just move the thing into my quarters. You can come by anytime you want to." Not clearly not picking up that this is not not the case, but
Right.
I do like that at the end when they're saying goodbye to each other. It's like he just couldn't help himself. He had to hug the guy to let him go. I like that O'Brien reminded him, "Hey, I know Earth's not around the corner, but we still expect you to visit. You
Right.
got to come in."
Right.
And he should, you know. Yeah, I liked all of those things. I love the way that they wrapped up these endings for individuals, you
Right.
know. And we see we know that Esri and now we can talk about them since we're there. Esri and Bashir are together and are now trying to sort out their lives and what's next. I'll be honest, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
They didn't do enough. It was too much, too soon, too fast. It did not do enough to engender any sort of, "Oh, I'm happy for them." Like,
Yeah.
seriously, I couldn't even say that. I'm happy for them.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I was still upset with the fact that when they got to Worf and Worf saying his goodbyes and they do the little song clip show and we're seeing when Worf first walked onto the station, all that stuff. The majority of his clips were him and Esri together.
Yes.
I was like,
Yeah.
"What is this?
Yeah.
What you were on you were on the station, you were here on the thing for
Seven
at least 2
years.
years." Well, no, not because he got there in season 4, but you were
Oh,
here at
Worf.
least
Right. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Worf.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, you were on the station at least 3 years
Right.
before she was. You
Right.
got married for Pete's sakes.
Yeah.
Not a single clip
Jadzia.
of Jadzia in the whole thing. And I know the out of universe reason is they did not want to have to pay her any kind of residuals for using her image, and that's why she wasn't included. But it's such a crappy snub, such a crappy snub.
Yeah. I fully
And
agree.
uh, at least for Worf, there should have been a scene from his wedding in the bar,
Yes.
and all of them were in
Yeah.
it. Cisco, Martok, Bashir O'Brien could have been a great little scene in there. That
Right.
should have been included.
Right.
All that, but no, we get 3 scenes of him with Esri when they kissed for the first time, when they were being held prisoner, and I think when they first met or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just too much.
Yeah.
Too much. They're trying to make Esri happen.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, well, it's as you said, and you are. I read it on Wikipedia here. They did go to Terry Farrell and say we want to maybe have you make a little cameo in a flashback during the that little all those little moments.
Mhm.
And apparently the lawyer was like 4 or 5 times what they wanted to pay her. It's like and I get it for budgetary reasons, you couldn't do it. But at the same time, you also set yourself up for that by
Yeah,
firing her.
yeah. When you treated her like garbage when you got rid of her,
Yeah,
like no wonder she came back kind of fiery wouldn't you? Like, you dismissed her. You told her that she would never really star in anything again, that she'd be back
Right.
waiting tables or whatever. You
Well,
know,
and
like,
the great irony here
ugh.
is that if they had kept her on as a secondary, like backgroundish sort of character, and had no Esri, there wouldn't have been an Esri who's a full-on cast member. But Jadzia is now, her pay is less because she's not there all the time. They could have had her as a character, paid her less, and had her at the finale. Oh well,
Ah, it
yeah.
was it was it was terrible.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
it was a noticeable something noticeably missing from all that. Which is also curious because during that one episode where Esri goes into Worf's quarters, we see a picture of him with Jadzia and we hear her voice. So they have at least paid her once, I would think. They paid her for that episode, but
Yeah,
what do
but
I know?
it's I'm sure it's significantly less than when they have to actually use your image, yeah, use your image, your likeness, whatever. I'm thinking it's probably less,
Right. Yeah,
and you could
I
probably
see.
blend in your voice with other um background noises. So did you hear it? Are you sure? Did it,
Yeah.
was it something else? Like it's kind of that, um yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All of it was just it was a noticeable absence. Excuse me. And that's
Now
why that scene was missing something.
now in the universe there are a lot of other issues that we also get ignored for this ending here. One of the major ones being the fact that at the end, Bajor still isn't a member of the Federation. Let's
Mm,
not forget that's the whole reason that Cisco went to uh, Deep Space Nine in the first place. They had
right,
recently thrown off the yoke of their Cardassian oppressors. They were trying to get themselves ready for Federation membership. They had a lot of social and political issues to fix, a lot of cultural issues to fix. And Cisco's job, as we remember Picard saying in that pilot episode, his job was to get them ready. And here we are 7 years later. And as far as we can tell, everybody seems quite comfortable with the fact that they are not members of the Federation.
yeah.
And Cisco, for all intents and purposes, is, we'll say, missing in action. So, did he fail? Did he fail his mission?
Uh, I feel like it's such an inevitability that Bajor will join the Federation that even though technically it hasn't happened yet, it's going to at some point. So, nah, I think he's good.
I think that they're certainly more cozy with the Federation than they've ever been. And the
Yeah,
fact that one of their officers became the emissary who also seemingly gave his life to protect them from their shadow demons,
right,
I don't think there's any risk of them not joining the Federation should the
right,
Federation come around and ask again, you know.
right.
But yeah, officially, it does not happen. So
Mhm.
in universe, they're still not members, which would
So
explain
even by
also
the
why.
time of Star Trek Online,
No, by the time of Star Trek Online, it has become a member of the Federation.
okay,
Starfleet officially takes over command of Deep Space Nine, and it's just there's nothing but Starfleet officers all over the place
right, right.
there. So, in fact, the office, Cisco's office, the baseball has become enshrined on the desk. So when you
Mm,
go into the office, there's this little dais with the baseball sitting on it, and there's a protective uh, cube around it.
mm,
So it's always there.
right.
Which, if you remember from way back when the Dominion first took over the station, Cisco left the ball
Yep.
and
I'll be back, baby.
Ducard
Yeah.
said it's a message from Cisco that I'll be back because he didn't
Yeah.
take his ball with him. I was like, ah, see,
Yep.
it's a message. He'll be back. Don't discount him. Although, as far as we know, he has not
Yeah.
returned. Yeah, yeah. On screen anyway, he's not returned. Not returned.
Yeah.
No.
So
To answer
then,
Vincent's question in the chat, no one asks what happened to
what
Kyle.
happened to Win?
No one cares.
No one
She died.
does. Yeah.
There.
Oh, her comeuppance was so beautiful. I love the she pulls her hair down and she like kisses Gul Dukat. Meanwhile, she's
She's
planning to
freeing
murder him.
herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
She makes all these grandiose promises about how devoted she now is. She's pledging her eternity to them, and nothing. And she gets sucked up in a ball of fire and disappears into nothingness. Oh
Now, what were you going
gosh.
to ask me? Give us a what?
Oh yes. So just a kind of brief glimpse into the comic book storyline. There
Okay.
is Cisco back in some capacity, or is it about
Yes.
him? Okay.
So it is definitely about him, and yes, Cisco is back. I've read just about the first half of this. So basically it picks up, and it's been a couple of years since Cisco has disappeared. Not many, like I've like it doesn't exactly say. But I read this and I was taking it as he's probably been missing for about just shy of a decade.
Okay.
So,
So he has a new
actually
kid that's like
actually,
10 years
no,
old.
it's shorter than that. I think it's like 5 years. I'm just flipping through it, and yeah, it's looking like it's about 5 years after. Um, so yeah, so his child would be about 5 years old, and he appears on the station. And the way the story works out, he appears and he's like ready for business. He's like, "I'm back. There's a reason I'm back. We have got to go now."
Mm,
And he appears to Jake, who is still living on the station, by the way.
mm,
And um, Jake's like, "No, you've got to come and see
good kid.
your kid and see Cassidy and all that." And he's like, "I would love to. I plan to. I'm not necessarily leaving again, but
Right.
there is something that has happened that is of critical importance, and I must begin this now."
Right.
And so he tries to, but then he has to go through this whole process of being like recertified. And so he meets up with Captain Picard. He meets up with Data, Dr. Crusher, uh, Scotty makes an appearance. There's like a bunch of legendary characters that pop up right away in this thing. So
Right.
it's been very fun. But
How would
yeah,
Scotty show up? Hasn't he supposed to have been died by that point on the TNG
well,
episode?
if you remember in the TNG episode Relics, he was trapped in the
The
transporter
transporter,
for
right?
78 years.
Yeah.
And so then when they freed him from that, they gave him a shuttle and let him go to do whatever it is he wanted to do.
Right.
Now there's a whole other series of books where Scotty ends up meeting up with a bunch of other officers who apparently have all been displaced in time one way or another.
Okay.
And so that they've kind of made their own
There's a
club because the
retirement community of
well,
displaced.
basically it's explained that there's we have the prime directive and we also have the temporal prime directive. So if they weren't
Ah.
in the instant that the officer appeared, whenever it was they appeared, if they weren't able to get them immediately back to whatever their timeline was, they become stuck wherever they are because now you've learned too much, you've lived too much in whatever timeline, so we can't send you back because you would then affect the timeline because you know stuff. So,
This is Cisco's job now. He transports people back to their
well,
time
you're
properly.
you're not far off because
Okay, there we go.
Since Scotty did it the legit way. He didn't time hop.
Yeah.
He spent the time in a pattern buffer.
Right.
So what they do with Scotty is basically he goes back to school and kind of re-educates himself and becomes like grand poobah of engineering, and they put him in charge of the Starfleet Corps of Engineers, where he spends the majority of his time teaching students and kind of like redeveloping ways to retrofit old technology with new technology because the Federation has
Nice.
like a bunch of stuff that like were ideas they developed 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago that fizzled out or disappeared or became less important or whatever it was. And instead of just trashing all of it, the Federation has been holding on to it, waiting for somebody to kind of like figure out what to do with it. In walks the miracle worker himself, Scotty. And so Scotty has been putting all this stuff together on a particular ship that when Cisco comes back, they
Right.
give Cisco command of that ship. And they're like, it's kind of an old
Nice.
school ship design, but it's got a lot of unique features, tips, tricks, and things like that that no one else has ever had before. And by the way, your chief engineer is the guy who
Right.
built the ship, Montgomery Scott. So he's got the best engineer in three
Wow.
generations working as his engineer on a
Nice.
Chimera ship with Data and
Crusher.
Crusher and a smattering of other officers.
Nice.
So it's
Okay.
crazy. It's like a crazy way to get these characters back, but it makes sense as well. And I was like, for a comic book, you guys did your homework. I'm
Nice.
impressed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, really quick, because Vincent's asking about Admiral Janeway, so I do want to say this. There is another comic book series that I want to read, and you may have seen this one. And this is where Q and the Squire of Gothos, and I believe the Organians. These are all so the Organians and the Squire of Gothos are two OG omnipotent beings from the original series, right?
Right.
And then we know that Q is the next generation's omnipotent being.
Right.
Well, they decide that they want to play kind of a cosmic game, and it will decide the fate of a couple of things, but they need people to do it.
Right.
So they've decided to grab some of the greats from the, from a particular level of civilization. They grab these individuals.
Right.
Who else do they choose? But the various crews from Voyager, the Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, Archer's Enterprise. They grab them all together, and they only give them pieces of the puzzle, and then they have to work either together or against each other to figure it out. And it's a weird mix and match of crews. So like you'll have Picard with Spock, and Janeway has uh Riker
Data.
or something. Yeah. Like it's this weird mix up of people. And I hear that it's very entertaining. I have not read it. But I'm looking forward to finding it because I like when they've continued these things out. So
Right.
that'll be next after I get through with this series.
I'll have to snag that comic book from you at some point. We'll have to do an episode on that as well.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get through all these because
Yeah.
they're fun.
Yeah.
They're really fun.
Good. Good.
Well, I guess I have to ask the question. Final thoughts on this
Man.
final episode.
Oh my gosh, man. Well, I guess we're not gonna like just drop the show. We're not gonna just stop here. So
No,
if
no,
anything
no.
else
This is
comes up,
final thoughts on this final episode of Deep Space Nine.
no,
We've
I
got
know,
other
I
things
know.
planned, but
Yes,
no
I know.
more series.
I'm just
No
trying
more
to think.
series.
Am I gonna remember my questions into the future? If I don't remember now, what am I gonna forget? Um, yeah, yeah. I remember you and I kind of talked about how on the phone before tonight that you know Cisco's story has a better kind of not a better. Oh, sorry. Picard and Q have a starting point on TNG. The last episode is about Q returning and taking Picard on a time
Mhm.
traveling journey as well. Now that I think about it, gee whiz, time travel has happened a lot on these shows for sure. But
Yeah.
anyway, Picard comes back with a Q related storyline. Um, but like Cisco's is a little more poignant. Like his being the emissary is a central aspect of his character throughout the show, as opposed to Q showing up whenever he wants. So this is a more poignant kind of finale. Like the
Hmm.
characters truly move on. Like the only
Yeah.
character from TNG that is not still on the Enterprise is Worf because he joined the Deep Space Nine cast. Like when you go watch the movies, it's still Riker and Data and
And they
Geordi
find
and
a way to bring Worf back. They
yeah,
always do. They
yeah,
always find a way to bring Worf back.
yeah. Like Deep Space Nine, like you can't quite return to the way things were anymore.
No.
Cisco's gone, Odo's gone, Kira's been promoted. Nog's been
Worf's
promoted.
Worf's gone. Well, uh, Bashir and Esri are still there,
They're a
but I
thing
mean,
now. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, if you follow the books, eventually, um, one Esri ends up leaving the psychology department and takes command, ends up getting into command, and ends up rising to the rank of captain. And you work with her also on a STO in the game and the mission. Um, in another book series, Bashir becomes the new head of Section 31. So do with that information what you will. Um, yeah, you know
Do they
what? We
stay a
don't really
couple
hear.
through all this, or they
Yes, they
break
get
up?
married. They
Oh
get
wow.
married.
Okay.
And at one point, he is serving as her CMO on her new ship before he takes over with Section 31. And then O'Brien is the only one that you never really hear anything else of. He went back to Earth
Became a
and
professor.
he became a professor, and that's it. There are some oblique references to him from like other people who pop up in other things, being like, "Oh, I took Professor O'Brien's engineering course,"
Right.
things like that. But we never see him again.
How to integrate alien technology and Federation technology 101.
You're right. He recorded a series of holograms, and then he fucked off back to Ireland, and we never saw him again. That's
Played
all
the
that.
cello. Yeah, played the cello for the rest of
Yeah,
his life. Yeah. It's too bad. O'Brien's been around for so long, even on TNG, that his character being dropped would be kind of bummer. But oh well. I'm glad he has a nice family life. He
but he
deserves
has a
to
he has a
retire.
quiet family ending.
Yes.
A very dignified, in my opinion, ending.
Right.
He he's home. If you think about it, it's what he said he wanted. He wanted to die in his bed at 100 years old, surrounded by family and friends. Well,
Right.
he's on that trajectory
Yeah.
right now. So unless
Yeah.
something happens, there it is.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, there is that reference in Lower Decks where he is listed as the most important human of all time, is Chief Miles O'Brien. So
Okay.
we don't know what happens between now and then that he gets that title, but there is something that happens that makes him apparently the most important human of all time. So
I gotcha. I have to watch Lower Decks just for the jokes that they have
it's
there.
hilarious. You should watch it. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's hilarious. It's
Gotcha.
worth it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so final things about Deep Space Nine. Cisco was uh I wish we've said it a million times. I wish Cisco and Picard had an episode
another scene.
together. They should have had, like, if the opening episode was the two of them having a clash, it'd be great here at the finale. I don't know how we would have fit it in. I'm whatever. I'm just saying an episode along the way of the two of them and their different leadership styles somehow clashing for whatever reason. Um, would have been amazing. Oh, you're pointing to, okay, all right. Picard, I guess, and Cisco do have a moment together.
Yes. Yes. They
Gotcha.
have a they have a couple of moments
Very
here.
good.
So
Okay.
if you're looking for a follow up, there is one, and it's actually pretty fitting. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I enjoyed it because it was kind of a little bit of a role reversal, and
Ooh.
I liked that for both of them.
For
Um,
the
you know,
role reversal made me think of Q again because Cisco's now the god being. So dang it, Picard just being like, "How many god beings do I have to put up with?"
right?
Um,
Why do you all keep finding me? What is it? What do I got to do?
yeah, I
Did you
gotta say
enjoy
that.
this show though? Like you've
Yeah,
watched Next Generation. Did you enjoy Deep Space Nine?
yeah.
Did
This
you
nine.
enjoy it as much as you enjoyed Deep Space Nine?
So I will definitely say that TNG was more accessible. I have to just say it, more accessible, because the whole point of TNG, like the original show, I assume, you jump into an episode, you don't have to know the previous one, you don't have to know the next one, you can usually just jump right in, get along. Picard is always the anchor to the episode. Data is an interesting character because he's the cyborg. Riker is, personable. You like his charm and his manliness, and Troy is the female empath. Like, it's very accessible. However, Deep Space Nine had deeper storytelling because they had a deeper storyline going through it. Kira, season one particular, she's the standout character because her character is dealing with all of the ramifications of the Bajoran Cardassian War being over. Cisco has a better backstory than Picard because he has all the trauma of his wife dying, etc. I do think that Deep Space Nine at times kind of faltered. Again, Cisco doesn't anchor the show like Picard does, and so it doesn't have kind of that in a sense. It doesn't have, Cisco might just show up and say he yeah, Odo's interesting character, but again, Data's more accessible if you're talking about kind of the quirky character. Um,
Mhm.
the idea of the Trill was interesting, but I feel like they had a hard time really kind of figuring out what they wanted to do with that. Jadzia was always a
Yeah.
character that always felt underdeveloped. Um, Worf,
Yeah.
even on TNG, Worf again. What I want for Worf is I want an episode where Worf is right about everything. I want an episode where Worf gets his way, where Worf tells everyone how it should be, and they all have to, by the end, agree with him. I always feel like he's the butt of the joke. He's the one who gets the dressing down. He's a brave
That's why
character.
we need a Captain Worf series. We need to
Yes.
see Worf in command, where
Ah,
his
gosh.
experience, his tenure, his strategic mind, all of it gets to be put together in a position where
Yes.
he gets to lead, he
Right.
gets to give the order,
Right.
and watch as he, you know, not only mentors others, but in a way mentors himself to be
Right.
like, what I would really like to, the impulsive me wants to do this, but I learned from Picard, I learned from Cisco, you got to
Right.
do this, you got to do that. Sometimes this is more appropriate than that thing. Here's what we're gonna do. Like I would love to see that kind of new development for him, but don't think we're ever gonna get there. At least
Yeah.
not with Worf and Michael Dorn being
Yes.
Worf. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have to wait until if they want to cycle back around to those characters into the inevitable reboot cannon fodder nonsense. Hopefully, I'm so old by the time they do that, it won't matter because I'll be damned if I'm going to have to sit through a young, sexified Picard trying to bone Captain Crusher in the background. No, no,
Yeah.
thank you. I don't
Right.
even want to. I don't even want to come close to seeing that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess a quick question: does he get a good series of books post this? Does he?
So there is a comic book series that talks about some of the things that Worf gets up to after he's been made ambassador.
Right.
It leads into what he becomes in Star Trek Picard. I have not read them, but I've heard that they're pretty compelling. There's some stuff that gets him with his brother Kern again, who he kind of
Oh.
lost, and then we get Kern back. There's
Hmm.
a reason for that as well. So you kind of have to go through that. His relationship with Alexander improves. I know that there was also a storyline where he more fully deals with the loss of Jadzia and moving on from Jadzia and trying to establish a new kind of life and happiness with someone else.
Right.
Um, so there are things out there. That's the kind of the point that that I like about a lot of these things is if you really truly are interested in what happens with some of these characters beyond what we see on the screen, there are things. So I would definitely go and check them out. Star Trek Online is a great place to start because it was one of the first things that came out that uh, was licensed as canon. So the evolving stories that you follow on there are all the moment that they're out that these are legit. So
Right.
a lot of great stuff there that you can use that you can go with. There is a series of books um, for the next gen and Deep Space Nine characters, and there's like I want to say there's 7 of them, and they all have names like a time to something, right? A time to die, a time to be reborn, a time to love, a time to mourn, a time so forth and so on, right?
Did Double O
There's a
Seven
bunch of
show up briefly? Time to die.
yeah. There's like I'm just saying there's a bunch of those and they're all interconnected and they deal with mainly the people that they deal with are the next generation cast, but
Sure.
there are other people that pop up and have um a lot to do in them. Even Wesley is back at one point in them. So um, read if you are interested. I would read those, and then my favorite one out of all is the eighth one. It was called Death in Winter, and that one deals with Picard and Crusher and their whole situation. And now I'm finally moving on to Deep Space Nine and their whatevers.
Gotcha.
So I'll keep you posted as long as we continue to do the show.
Sure.
Which, speaking of which, we should talk about a little bit what we're going to be doing going forward before
Before
we
we
end.
do, I just want to quickly go back to
Yeah.
one scene in the show because I'm remembering something we didn't talk about. You did bring it up in your recap of this. I didn't quite like the scene where Cisco and Martok and Ross are on Cardassia and they pour out the wine. I know what they were trying
Mhm.
to do. I just feel like when you have a Klingon as your ally and he's saying, let's enjoy our victory, you don't pour out the blood wine. You might return it to him and say, thank you
I
for
don't
the
wanna
wine.
drink it.
I don't, but the pouring it out, I did not like. I felt that was insulting, especially when
Yeah.
Ross does it right after Cisco did it. I mean, Cisco does it and he's like, I'm not going to drink on the bodies of, and pours it out. And then Ross like looks Martok in the face and does it. I'm like,
I will agree. I feel like the execution was lacking on that
yeah,
one. I get the point they were trying to make, but
yes,
this has been one of the major problems that I continue to have with Star Trek in the sense that they are almost preachy in the way that they're like,
yes,
we are very inclusive and accepting of all cultures, and we recognize that we're all different, and so
right.
we're not going to push our values on you,
Except
but
if you're a
we'll
Klingon.
respect, but we'll respect yours unless you're one of these races. And then in that case, we feel like we have ample reason to lecture you on why you're inferior and we're not.
Right.
And this was one of those moments. This is a moment where, for Klingons, culturally, battle, there is nothing better. This is
Yes.
their moment. This is their time to shine. We
Right.
are victorious,
Right.
and we want to celebrate this right now.
Right.
And for you to be invited in and to be
Right.
a part of that, that's a
Exactly.
huge honor.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you don't want to partake on it, you've got any number of ways you could get yourself out of that situation.
Right.
Y'all did just fight a battle. Your ship is beat up, so are your people. If you just want to politely excuse yourself while you handle your ship, your crew, your whatever, there's no
Right.
honor lost in that. But
Right.
to stand there with the dude while he's offering you what he calls the finest vintage of his
Yes.
favorite drink,
Yes.
and you pour it out on the ground, I'm
Right.
surprised Martok didn't pull out his knife and stab you, because
Yes. Me
that's
too.
what I would have thought he should have done. And you're
Yes.
right, like Cisco may have gotten away with it just out of pure shock and audacity. Martok stunned into inaction. Can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Out of
But
pure
when
pique.
Ross, right, but when Ross does it in front of him and he's kind of like slowly doing it while looking him in the eye, yeah, insta stab. We're down one
Yeah.
admiral. Like
It
right away,
was
we're down an admiral.
yeah, it was too insulting to their ally and all that. It was just a poor. I just like if I were Cisco, I would have taken a sip, like the smallest of sips, in
Or just refuse.
solidarity.
Yeah, or just refuse the glass. Just
Yeah,
refuse the glass. Like, I'm here with you. I stand with you in solidarity, but I
right,
cannot drink
right,
over these bodies. Like, at
yeah,
least meet him. Try to meet halfway.
right,
But yeah, this is that aspect of the Federation um, idealistic mindset that
right.
they fail to execute. You
Yeah,
can't, for multiple seasons, multiple across multiple franchises, tell me how inclusive you are and how respectful you are of other cultures and everything else, but then you blatantly throw that in the face of your main
one of your main
longest standing
allies.
allies.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
the three of them had several scenes during this episode of them all agreeing on the next move. Like, here's our
right.
strategy, here's our battle plan, and then screw you, Klingon. Come on. Anyway, I just had to say that.
No, you're right. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
it was a messed up scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, as I said, we're now done. We are done with the show.
I think
But
that was
we
my
have
last thing. Yep.
yes.
Yep.
But we have several other things in store for those of you that are interested and want to continue to tune in. Obviously, we have several different book things that we are going to be continuing, as well as doing a kind of look back. I think the first thing that we were wanting to do was talk about the very first episode, not just from the standpoint of now we've ended this and watching it again, but also going and listening to our first show and seeing if we agree with what we said then
Mm.
versus now, any projections, anything like that. We're going to do some things like that. We're also going to do that with a few other episodes, some main standouts, like, of course, David's favorite episode, Move Along Home, has to. I love how you try to put your fingers in your ears and you're wearing headphones. So you were still going to hear me
I did it on
anyway.
purpose. I just,
Um,
yeah,
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 but well, So we have to cover that one, and um, and we might do that. We might do a top 10 list of like I guess our favorite episodes, things of episodes of our show that we enjoyed the most, maybe cover some more things in greater detail. And anybody who has anything that you've heard us say or that you wish that we would talk about more, if you want to send that to us as well, you can leave it as a comment on any of our videos. Or if you want to send us a message on our Facebook page, of course, we will review all that and we will start to compile all those things together and put some time out to go over those things with you as well. I do apologize. I know I keep it's almost like a broken record on this about the releasing of episodes onto the various podcast streaming platforms. We still seem to be having a lot of issues with that. The best thing I can tell you right now is if you go directly to our show's page, you will be able to find the majority of our episodes. There are some that are have not released yet. They're on like a time delay, so they'll still be coming out. But if you were only going to like Apple the Apple site for podcast or to Spotify for it or whatever, there's some kind of algorithmic whatever that they're
Mhm.
still trying to fix up. So
Right.
it's coming, but it's very, very slow. So just go to our website. You should have access to everything there. You can listen to it. You can also contact us through that site if you want, and we will gladly look through what you say and try to include all of those things.
Yeah.
No word yet as to whether or not we're going to move on to another series and which series that will be. Obviously, the most logical choice would be Voyager, but you know what? I mean, we can do whatever we want. Logic's kind of like a guideline. It doesn't say
Yeah.
we have to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We definitely need to do the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, the book.
yes, that's one of the books,
Yep.
the autobiography. We also have to finish up the Expanse philosophy
Yep.
because that will be our way of finishing out the Expanse series,
Yeah.
and then yeah, we'll just see where we are once we do those things as to what we want to do next.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys.
There's so much we could do. We'll have plenty of more episodes, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So don't worry, guys. You will still see our bright faces and hear our dulcet tones for a little while longer. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us on this extra long episode, our, finale of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. If you want to start the whole thing all over again, you are more than welcome to do so. The show, of course, is still available on Paramount Plus, and I've already told you where you can go and re listen to all of our episodes. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.